The first thing I tell people when they ask about the cheetah is that the African savanna is much quieter than they imagine. When people picture it, they think of constant animal sounds, roaring predators, drums of hooves, some kind of wild chaos. But the truth is that most of the time it's just wind moving through tall yellow grass and the distant clicking calls of insects. That silence is what made the whole experience so terrifying. I was 23 years old at the time, an exchange student studying environmental science. I had come to Kenya for a semester program focused on wildlife ecology. Back home I was just a quiet university kid who liked hiking and photography. I had never faced anything truly dangerous in the wild before. I had read about predators in textbooks, watched documentaries, studied their behavior in lectures. But none of that prepared me for what it feels like when a predator is actually hunting you. That day started completely normal. Our research camp sat near the edge of a protected savanna region, a wide open landscape broken by scattered acacia trees and long waves of grass that rolled across the horizon like a golden ocean. The air smelled dry and dusty, mixed with that faint earthy scent that comes from sun-baked soil. It was late afternoon, maybe around 4, and the heat had finally started to soften. The sky had that pale orange glow that happens before sunset. I had gone out alone with my camera and notebook to document bird species near a shallow watering area about half a mile from camp. Normally students weren't supposed to wander solo, but the spot was close enough that it felt safe. Besides, we had seen mostly gazelles and birds around there for weeks. Nothing dangerous. At least that's what I believed. I remember crouching near a patch of tall grass, focusing my camera on a lilac-breasted roller perched on a branch. The bird looked like a piece of living artwork, bright blue wings, purple chest, flashes of turquoise every time it shifted its feathers. I took a few photos and scribbled notes about its behavior. The air was still. The grass barely moved. And then I noticed something strange. The gazelles. About 200 yards away, a small group of Thomson's gazelles had been grazing quietly. But suddenly their heads lifted at the same time. Their ears twitched, bodies stiff, eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. Animals in the wild don't do that unless something is wrong. At first I thought maybe it was a lion somewhere in the distance. That would have made sense. But the gazelles didn't immediately run. They just stood frozen, muscles tight like springs. I slowly stood up and looked across the grass. That's when I saw the shape. At first it was barely noticeable. Just a subtle movement through the tall grass, something low to the ground, sliding silently between the yellow stalks. Then the head lifted. 2 black tear lines down the face. Spotted coat. Lean body built like a coiled spring. A cheetah. Now most people think cheetahs are harmless compared to other big cats. They're not as aggressive as lions or leopards, and they usually hunt smaller prey. But there was one thing about the situation that instantly made my stomach drop. I was alone. And I was closer to it than the gazelles were. For a few seconds neither of us moved. The cheetah had clearly noticed me too. Its golden eyes locked onto mine, its body half hidden in the grass. I could see its shoulders rising and falling slowly with each breath. In wildlife classes we were taught a few basic survival principles. The biggest one is this: never run from a predator that relies on speed. And cheetahs are the fastest land animals on Earth. If I ran, it would trigger its chase instinct immediately. I wouldn't stand a chance. So I stayed still. My heart was pounding so loudly it felt like it might echo across the plains. My mouth went completely dry. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around and sprint back to camp, but I forced my feet to stay planted. The wind shifted slightly. The cheetah lowered its head. And suddenly it started moving toward me. Not fast. Not yet. Just a slow, cautious stalk. Every step was silent. Its paws barely bent the grass as it crept forward. Its body stayed low, shoulders rolling smoothly beneath its spotted coat. I remember thinking, this can't be happening. Cheetahs normally chase running prey. Humans aren't typical targets. But predators are opportunists, and out here I must have looked small, alone, and vulnerable. I slowly raised my arms to make myself appear bigger. That's another technique we learned. Predators sometimes hesitate if they think you're a larger animal. "Hey!" I shouted. My voice cracked. The cheetah stopped. For a moment I thought it might turn away. Instead, its tail flicked once, twice, and then its posture changed. Its body lowered even more. That's when the fear truly hit me. Because I recognized that posture instantly. It was preparing to sprint. Everything happened unbelievably fast after that. 1 second the cheetah was crouched in the grass. The next it exploded forward. I've never seen anything move that fast in my life. It was like a bullet launched across the savanna, the grass parting behind it as its long legs stretched and contracted in terrifying rhythm. My brain screamed, "Don't run!" But instinct took over. I ran. The ground was uneven and dusty beneath my boots as I sprinted toward the nearest acacia tree about 50 yards away. My backpack bounced violently against my shoulders, my lungs already burning with panic. Behind me I could hear it. Soft pounding footsteps. Closing the distance impossibly fast. Cheetahs can reach highway speeds in seconds. I knew that from textbooks. But knowing it and experiencing it are two very different things. Within moments the sound was right behind me. I risked a glance over my shoulder. Big mistake. The cheetah was maybe 20 feet away, its mouth opened slightly as it ran, eyes locked onto me with terrifying focus. I knew I wasn't going to outrun it. So I did the only thing I could think of. I changed tactics. Instead of running straight for the tree, I suddenly veered hard to the left, zigzagging across the uneven ground. Cheetahs are incredibly fast in a straight line, but sharp turns can slow them down. The move bought me a few seconds. But the cheetah adapted quickly. It cut the angle and lunged. I felt something slam into the back of my leg. Claws. I crashed face first into the dirt, the impact knocking the air out of my lungs. Dust filled my mouth and nose as I struggled to breathe. Then I felt the weight. The cheetah landed partially on my back, its claws gripping my jacket as it tried to control me like prey. Its hot breath blasted against my neck, and I heard a deep, guttural growl vibrating through its chest. In that moment I was absolutely certain I was going to die. But something strange happened. Instead of immediately biting my throat like predators usually do, the cheetah hesitated. Maybe it was confused. Maybe I was too large compared to its normal prey. That hesitation gave me a tiny window. I remembered another survival principle: fight back if the attack happens. Predators expect prey to panic and collapse. So I twisted violently onto my back and shoved my backpack directly into the cheetah's face. The bag had a metal water bottle clipped to it, and when it hit the cheetah's nose it made a loud clanging sound. The cat recoiled slightly, surprised. I grabbed the water bottle and swung it as hard as I could, striking the side of its head. It wasn't a powerful hit, but it startled the animal enough for me to scramble backward. The cheetah snarled, ears flattening. Now it looked angry. It lunged again, claws slashing across my forearm. Pain shot through my arm like fire, and I could feel warm blood immediately soaking into my sleeve. Adrenaline took over. I grabbed a handful of dry dirt and threw it directly into the cheetah's eyes. It hissed and shook its head, blinking rapidly. That moment of confusion was everything. I scrambled to my feet and sprinted the last few yards to the acacia tree. The trunk was rough and covered with thorns, but I didn't care. I jumped, grabbed a low branch, and hauled myself upward with pure panic-driven strength. Thorns ripped into my palms and arms as I climbed. Below me the cheetah circled the base of the tree, tail lashing angrily. It let out a series of sharp chirping calls, pacing back and forth. My chest heaved as I clung to the branch about 10 feet above the ground. Blood dripped slowly from my arm. The cheetah stared up at me for what felt like forever. Minutes passed. The sun dropped lower toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the grass. Eventually the cheetah seemed to lose interest. It gave one last frustrated glance toward the tree, then trotted back into the tall grass and disappeared. Just like that. The savanna became silent again. I stayed in that tree for nearly an hour before I finally climbed down and limped back toward camp. My legs felt like jelly, and every rustle in the grass made my heart jump. When I finally reached the research station, the staff rushed me to the medical tent. The scratches weren't life-threatening, but they needed cleaning and stitches. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I saw those golden eyes charging toward me through the grass. Looking back now, I realize how many small decisions kept me alive that day. Not running immediately. Changing direction to slow the chase. Fighting back when the attack happened. Using the tree as refuge. But the biggest lesson was simpler than any survival technique. Nature doesn't care who you are. Out there on the savanna, I wasn't a student or a photographer or a visitor. I was just another animal in the ecosystem, one that had wandered a little too close to a predator's hunting ground. And for a few terrifying seconds, I was prey.